Good morning. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. It is Wednesday, February 22nd, and I'm here with key members of our county executive team to announce a new program that we think is going to be very helpful for our municipal communities. This program, which we'll get into some detail, will be explained by Joan McDonald, who's our Director of Operations, Bridget Gibbons, who is our Director of Economic Development, and Shari Rosen-Asher, who's the Director of Program and Policy dealing with small businesses. I'm joined, as always, by Deputy County Executive Ken Jenkins. The program that we'll let Joan and Bridget explain is an effort by the county government to be helpful to our local governments, and that's a very important principle. The principle is that the people that we represent are represented by all different levels of government, but those levels of government need to coordinate and be thoughtful about how together we create a positive outcome. The outcome and the success of the downtown business areas is not just a village issue or a city issue. It matters to the county as well. And this cooperative program is showing that we intend to be a strong partner to our local governments. So to explain the program, the Downtown Improvement Grant Program, Joan McDonald will start out. She's our Director of Operations. Joan.
Thank you, County Executive. Good morning, everybody. This whole idea came about as a brainstorming session that Sherry and Bridget and I were having over what can we do next for our small businesses and our downtowns. The County Executive made a great decision when we came into office in 2018 by appointing Sherry as the liaison with our downtown improvement districts and our chambers of commerce. So as part of that brainstorming session, we thought about how can we do the next step, take the next step for helping our downtown areas, because we all believe in the philosophy, as the county executive does, that good economic development equals good community development, and making investments in communities in partnership with business organizations will help promote both businesses and communities. So it also happened that at the same time I reconnected with a former colleague who is here to join us today, and we'll talk through the issues. Rob Walsh is the former commissioner of the Department of Small Business Services for the City of New York. We worked together in the Bloomberg administration. So we are very excited about this. It's a continuation of the Business First program, and we look forward to hearing from communities and chambers of commerce on what their next steps will be. I'll turn it back over to the county executive.
Thank you. Thank you, Joan. And I'm very proud of the experience levels that the various members of our executive team have. It's not my personal experience level, but it is Joan's experience that she was head of the state of Connecticut's economic development programs under Governor Jody Rell. And so bringing that kind of expertise here to Westchester County is really deeply appreciated. We also have the business experience of Bridget Gibbons, who is our Director of Economic Development. Bridget has been a small business owner. She's worked inside some large corporations, so she sees both of those different angles. And as we talk about what we want to do to take public money to help advance a public improvement in a downtown area, she's uniquely positioned, having had both of those experiences. So I'll ask Bridget to take us to the next step.
That's okay. Very good. Thank you, County Executive. During the various stages of COVID, the County Executive and our Office of Economic Development worked to help our businesses and our communities survive. At the height of the pandemic, we established the Business First Grant Program. FIRST stands for Financial Investments for Recovery and a Sustainable Tomorrow. This program offered immediate financial relief to small businesses, nonprofits, religious organizations, minority women-owned businesses, service-disabled veteran-owned businesses, and disadvantaged business enterprises that were negatively impacted by COVID-19. Since 2020, we've given out nearly $31 million in grants to help these organizations. The DIG program is the next phase of our Business First program. We realized that downtowns across the county were negatively impacted by COVID-19. Shutdowns, limited capacity, and other restrictions put enormous strain on our businesses and also on our municipalities as everyone struggled to adapt to the new reality. Our goal with this pilot DIG program is to provide financial support to selected municipalities to help them reimagine their downtowns and positioning them to grow and become more sustainable and more resilient for the future. Thank you very much. Shari Rosen-Asher will be speaking next about more details on the program. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bridget. Sherry Rosen Asher, who is going to talk now about this in some greater detail, is our Director of Program and Policies, and she's been particularly assigned to work with the various Chamber of Commerces around Westchester County. That is a function that was never tasked in county government previously. In my prior experience as a legislator, I saw sort of a gap between what government was doing and what small businesses were doing in the Chamber of Commerce. And we have some very impressive large business organizations in this county that do a great job for the business community. But generally, when you get down to the downtowns of each of these different communities, the river towns, those in the Sound Shore, and those are elsewhere in the county, there was that extra liaison step that she has satisfied. I'd say one other thing, too, that's important in terms of Sherry's contributions here. Sometimes you look for commonality in demographics. People who are of the same gender, of the same age, perhaps of the same traditions, religious or ethnic traditions. Sherry and I are different in every one of those areas, except for one thing that links us. We both had professional careers in sales and in marketing. And so I see in her a kindred spirit in a completely different demographic package that understands that much of what government has to do is not mandate, but convince, sell, if you will. And that is the beauty of having this type of relationship with this program and those downtowns that will help in the pilot program, whatever we can do in the future, is that we have in Sherry a person who understands that dynamic, which is the dynamic behind every single retail store in this county. Sherry Asher.
Thank you so much, County Executive. Before I get into the logistics, I just want to take a minute to introduce Rob Walsh. As Joan said, he's the former commissioner of the New York City Department of Small Business Services, but he is also a key partner in JGSC Consulting, who we've been working with to put this grant together. So I'm just going to allow him to say a few words before I go through like all the boring logistical details.
Well, thank you, Kathy. County Executive, thank you for this opportunity, and to the team that I've been working with over the last couple of months. This is my passion. I got appointed Small Business Services Commissioner, where I worked with Joan McDonald in many neighborhoods throughout the 5 boroughs of New York City. Before that, I was involved in the revitalization of Union Square, a neighborhood that saw a lot of success. And I can't stress enough the timing of this coming out of the pandemic, the timing of this when a lot more people are shopping at their tables, their dining room tables, the challenge of putting together Main Streets together, out listening. And Sherry and Bridget have talked a great deal about, knitting these wonderful main streets together, and I think we're ready to do this. We bring a good deal of experience, not only here in New York, but throughout the Northeast area. JGSC has a great track record. I leaned on them when I was commissioner. After Hurricane Sandy, after blackouts, after downturns in economies, and also during the good times, when people were looking to figure out how they were going to fill spaces in neighborhoods, how to connect colleges and universities with the main streets. And we're excited to get out and listen and get ideas and work with this team to build. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Normally, I never write notes, but there's a lot to go over, so I will be looking down. I want to, first of all, thank the county executive, the deputy county executive, Joan and Bridget, for just being so supportive of, the new ideas and people walking in and saying, hey, what about this? And I'm saying, go ahead, let's find a way to do it. So it's an awesome environment to work in, and it's wonderful to work with a group of people who are so committed to each and every business owner in every part of this county. So I'm going to just go over some of the logistics, and I want everyone to know that I'm available for questions, comments, concerns. You could email me at Asher, S-A-S-C-H-E-R, at westchestergov.com anytime. So the first thing we have to say is this is a pilot program. So we're going to be awarding grants to 4 communities. It's a competitive application process, and these communities will be applying to have the benefit of working with the expertise of Rob and his fellow consultants at JGSC to help create a strategic plan and specific suggestions to help with downtown improvement. So it is not a one-size-fits-all. Each community that will be picked, things will be recommended based on what the needs are in that community. Those 4 communities will be eligible for up to $250,000 apiece from the county. Thank you, to help to implement the recommendations. To be eligible for this grant's open to municipalities that do not receive direct, and I always said these initials wrong, but CDBG grants, and have not received the New York State GRI, and do not have business improvement districts. So basically this is the villages and the towns. The link is live now. So if you want to take a look at the application, which I suggest everybody look it over, and there are FAQs there, it's diggrant.westchestergov.com, and DIG stands for Downtown Improvement Grant. The application does ask for contacts both at the municipal government level and from your local business community. So this is a true partnership. I do have the benefit of going all over the county and meeting with all the chambers of commerce, and I can see that there are a lot of communities where the local government works hand in hand with the local chamber, and it's very effective. So this is something we want to do to encourage everyone to be on the same page and be working together. So the application does require a contact at the local government, your village administrator, supervisor, manager, mayor, whoever you choose, and then someone from, if you have a chamber, if you have a Rotary, if you have another organization that's focused on the business district. We're also going to ask you to identify your downtown corridor, what is the area you want to work on, and what you see as the key issues, and also to try to calculate your vacancy rate, because that seems to be one of the biggest issues facing almost every municipality, and it's something that we hope this will address. We're also asking that the local government, the town board or village board, pass a resolution to support the implementation of this program. So we recognize that it could take some time for local governments to do that and get on the agenda. So the deadline for this is March 31st. So there is plenty of time. A lot of times when we do grants, it's a week or 5 days. But this is something that, we want you to take your time with. All of the applications will then be submitted to the consultants blindly. So they will not have the names of the communities on them. The applications will be scored and evaluated. They will come back to us with those numbers. We will all look them over. We will be bringing in the finalists for interviews. We recognize that some people may not be as good as the written part of the exam as they are in the oral part of the exam, so we're going to give people opportunity to tell us what you see the issues are. And then once those communities are chosen, they will have access to the consultants. They will be working with them to do a deep dive into what's going on, and then we will work towards the implementation. So I know that this is a lot of information and there's going to be questions, so we will be having a virtual Q&A meeting with the consultants on February 28th at 11 a.m. If you're interested in attending that, please send me an email, sasher@westchestergov.com. There's a C in Asher. And I will put you on that list. The invitation will be going out at the end of the week, so I can send it all out at once. Some people have already reached out to me. If you've already reached out to me, you're on the list. You will get the link. If you have not, please do so. And hopefully that will answer a lot of the questions that you have. This is really, really exciting. I'm so grateful to play a part in this and to be a part of this team. And I thank the county executive for taking a chance on a new girl when he hired me. So, thanks.
Thank you very much, Sherry. Rob, we're very happy to be working with you going forward. We appreciate your professionalism. We know it's a significant career you've had, and now you bring that to help us with our municipalities. We're deeply appreciative of that.
Excited to be here.
So thank you. I want to thank personally and publicly Sherry Asher, Bridget Gibbons, Joan McDonald, and off-camera Emily Saltzman. She's a little shy, Deputy Director of Operations. They are a very powerful team, along with other individuals in our economic development effort, and they're showing that the traditional view of how government involves itself in economic development, which is you go after a major corporation to relocate into your county, which is a perfectly acceptable strategy, just not one that is easily achieved in this day and age, that they're showing this kind of creativity, and it takes these kind of efforts to be able to figure out how do we move the ball more significantly. In this particular case, it's mentioned as a pilot program. We've allocated sufficient money for 4 communities to get these grants, and then we want to see how it works. We're going to assess it, evaluate it. Does it work? If so, is this the right amount of resources? Do we need more? Do we need to target it in some way? We will learn all of that from the first round of this effort. But the fact that we're not assuming that things can just float on as they usually do, that there has to be some additional effort. The state has stepped in with the DEI program, very significant, and New Rochelle has been a beneficiary of that, and Peekskill, Ossining, and other communities in the Hudson Valley. But that doesn't mean that the county should sit on the sideline. This is the county getting in the middle of the game as well. Just to close out, I'll repeat that Sherry has given you her email, sasher@westchestergov.com. We have an upcoming virtual informational session coming up February 28th at 11 a.m. And any of the people who are watching this that are either in a small business Chamber of Commerce setting or with any of the municipal governments are welcome to interact with us. We are going to reach out to those constituencies separate from this vehicle so that everybody is touched. Just to close off, though, a personal note. Back in the mid-'70s, I studied and received my master's degree in public administration from New York University. It's now called the Wagner School. It was not called that then, but it was the same basic rigor. And I worked full-time in the Bronx. I got on the subway, went down to classes at NYU at night, and then took the subway all the way back up to Mount Vernon. It was an experience to go through those 2 years to get my master's degree. And I remember to this day the professors I had and the courses I had: organizational theory, statistics, macroeconomics, and they tested me in ways that the undergraduate experience did not. And then you go out into the work world and you determine if you've learned anything from those experiences that you can draw from your educational, your academic experience. And I had a class on urban planning. I remember my professor, Professor Perry Norton, and one of the tasks that we had was to try to look at a downtown area and then make proposed improvements conceptually, which required us to look at a downtown area. At that point in time, I'm in my mid-20s, I picked one of the villages of Westchester County that I did not live in, and I went there and I walked around as a graduate student taking notes and interviewing some people so I could prepare a report, which I did, 10, 12-page report. I don't think I had the answers to the problems of that particular municipality because it never wound up becoming a footprint for action. But what that experience did at a very young age is it made me think about what makes a downtown work. We've had the classic academic book by Jane Jacobs, The Life and Death of American Cities, which we all read. It was sort of de rigueur for a master's in public administration to have read that book and to understood her principles. She wrote that book around 1960, 62, which was a different era than we are today. We're looking at issues relating to housing in downtown areas and what we have to do to deal with the change in the retail climate. More people are sitting at their computers at home purchasing things than ever before and not going out to bricks and mortar stores. What does that do? On the other hand, as the generations have advanced, much to my father's great chagrin, later generations go out to eat a lot more, and restaurants and the restaurant experience becomes a lot more important. And how that all fits in economically is the question for our development in the years to come. But we do know this. People who decide to stay in Westchester County, or people who pick Westchester County as a place to relocate to, wherever they come from, they look for certain basic things. They look for safe streets. They look for good education, good educational system for their children. They look for, maybe less so now than before, but they still look for an easy way to commute into New York City. They look for a good aesthetic environment, that there are trees and there's a sound and a river. All of those things Westchester has. Those are assets, and some of which we have no direct involvement in. But the small downtowns of our county, the Briarcliff Manors, the Rye Cities, the Armonks, and every one of those communities of similar size, they're not the major White Plainses or the New Rochelle's of the world, but they are attractive to people who decide, yes, I'll live in Armonk rather than Alpine, New Jersey. Yes, I will live in Mamaroneck rather than in Great Neck in the North Shore of Long Island. And if we are a thoughtful county government, if we're thoughtful individuals, we want to understand what moves those decisions to have those folks select Westchester or to stay in Westchester. And how do we support those downtown areas? And some of it may be physical infrastructure improvements. That was part of what I remember studying at the time. We're going to do new brick walking and new lighting in the heart of the downtown areas. But it has to be something more than that. And so now we're going to have a chance to test, outside of a graduate school context, exactly what can help incentivize the improvement of those small areas. We'll start with the pilot. Hopefully it'll be successful. But we won't lack for enthusiasm. The enthusiasm of Shari, the professionalism of Rob, and the work that Bridget and Joan and Emily and Ken all put into this mix. There's a lot of news stories to be covered in a day. There's always the conflict in government and people looking for those places where these things were brought. But we also need to understand when government is doing something proactive and good. When we rebuild a New Rochelle Family Court, when we rebuild a memorial field, when we launch a program like the DIG grants, we are showing government in its best possible light. And we should pay attention to that because that is the fruit of democracy. I'm George Latimer, County Executive. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to your involvement in this innovative program.